Om Kujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakyam Vande Valmiki Kokilam. This shloka says that Valmiki Maharishi is sitting on the branch of a tree and sweetly singing in a melodious voice Rama, Rama, Rama. So we are here to look at Rama through the eyes of his opponents. Ramayana is a wonderful kavya given to us by Valmiki Maharishi, who has captured the moods and emotions of a lot of characters. Today we are going to restrict our focus to those people who were on the wrong side of the war with Rama. And interestingly, they have a lot of messages that can be passed on to us that actually gives Rama in a different light. So I have pinned the talk on the top. So for folks who are interested in looking at it, you can. So let's look at a few of the opponents of Rama. So let's start. As soon as Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita are entering the forest, they are heading south. They have not even met Sarabanga or Sutikshna and all those rishis. This is ahead of that time. And what exactly is happening is a very hideous Rakshasa appears on the scene. And he wants to show his strength, and he says he tries to take hold of Sita, and he tells Rama and Lakshmana, you guys better go back. And he asks, before he takes over Sita, he was asking, who are you guys? So Rama said, I am a Kakusta. I am in the lineage of Kakusta. And he didn't even finish telling. So he tells who he is, that he is a descendant of, his father was Jiva, and he basically wants to take hold of Sita. You know, the Rakshasas have a very interesting philosophy. Whatever they can see, they will take it. It doesn't matter whose it is, whether it is rightfully theirs or not. This is more like their basic thought process of just taking anything in sight. So Virada took hold of Sita and told Rama and Lakshmana to shoo off from that place. So Rama quickly released a volley of arrows that stunned this fellow. And Virada was proud to inform Rama before that no weapons will cut him, because he got a special blessing from Brahma because of his tapasya. So what happened now? The Rakshasa is stunned. He leaves Sita down. He decides to pick a spear, and he is now menacingly moving towards Rama and Lakshmana. Rama is now showering a bunch of arrows and disposes of his spear. At that time, in a sudden move, he catches hold of Rama and Lakshmana in right and left hand. So Rama and Lakshmana are now, he wants to basically eat them up. So he starts moving away. So Rama intentionally tells Lakshmana to keep quiet so that they will wait for an opportunistic time. He doesn't want the battle to be in front of Sita. So he was trying his best to shield her. But Sita was desperate and she was like pleading to the Rakshasa, thinking that something might happen to Rama and Lakshmana. So, seeing fear in Sita's voice, Rama and Lakshmana chop the two hands of the Rakshasa that knocks him unconscious. Now, what happens? Rama and Lakshmana, since they know that weapons don't hurt this fellow, they are kicking and they are pounding him with their hands. And Rama puts his leg on the throat of this guy and he says, "Hey, this is not what you are supposed to do. You are hurting a lot of rishis. Now you are trying to take over Sita, and what is this?" At that time, they are having a small banter. He is telling Lakshmana, the way to dispose of this guy is maybe to dig a pit and put him there. That's the preferred way of disposing the Rakshasas those days. So what happened? The minute he heard Lakshmana, this fellow snapped out of his very tamasic nature. He started asking questions. I know you are Lakshmana. This must be Rama. This must be Sita. Suddenly he starts talking as if like it is a different personality. Now what happened? He gives advice to Rama. Rama, the reason why I am in this form is because I am a Gandharva called Tumburu and I did some bad things. I got a curse from Kubera because I was eyeing Ramba. And so, this Shapa Vimochana you are giving, I am so thankful. So, what is the attitude of a guy who falls at the hands of Rama? He is giving up his life, he is giving up his Stula Sharira. Now, in this case, the predominant attitude of Virada is that of gratitude. Tava prasadan mukto aham abhishapat su darunat bhuvanam swayam gamishyami swasti vo astu parantapa. Not only that, he wishes that good things happen for Rama. So just imagine which enemy whom you have just killed will come and tell you something like that. If it is a normal person, they would be just cursing. Why did you do that? I lost my life. My thing to do exist. You have taken away. And you are going to be cursing that guy. But in this case, this Rakshasa is giving up his body, regaining his original form. And not only that, see, when you are grateful, what do? You do something in return for that person. So he says, you need to go and meet this rishi called Sharabanga. He is just 1.5 yojanas from this direction. Please go to him right now. He says, Tvam Kshipram Tam Abhigacha. You go right now. Okay? Because he is going to guide you what is good for you. So please proceed immediately. Let's look at another Rakshasa. This time, Sita is already kidnapped by Ravana. Rama and Lakshmana are busy searching for Sita in the Vana, and then suddenly two hands grasp them. And Rama is actually Lakshmana is the one who is caught, and he is saying like, "Hey Rama, don't worry. Why don't you what is it like? See, the thing is that when something suddenly like this happens, when on the top of a problem after problem after problem, if it is only one problem, you don't have a problem. If it is the 10th problem all happening at the same time, our mind is fatigued. So Lakshmana is like, usually he is a very high spirited person, but even he is like tired. I don't know what to do, man. One more Rakshasa on the top of this search that is going wrong. And Rama is also wondering, like, what kind of situation is this? We gave up the kingdom happily, but now Vaidehi is also gone. What kind of life is this? So at that time, while they suddenly snap out of that spell of that low thinking, and then suddenly Rama tells Lakshmana, "Hey, we are Kshatriyas. We should be fighting this fellow. What are we talking like?" So immediately they take their swords and they chop this fellow's hands. At that time, Kabanda wants to know, like, who are you guys who are so strong to even chop my hands? So then he tells about his backstory. Kabanda tells all his story. And then Kabanda says, hey, you know what? The only way I can help you, look at this predicament. The only way I can help you is you need to burn my body. This is so funny. If you burn the body, that person is going to be dead. How is he going to come back and help? But sometimes when you are in a tight spot, and if somebody is taking charge and giving you a guidance, especially a person who is kind of superior in that situation, you better listen to them. And that's exactly what happened when they burnt Kabanda. A divine form appeared and he said, sorry, as long as I am in this Stula Sharira, my memory was not good because all the bad vasanas was pulling me. Now my memory is better. I am restored with the original memory. I have a few messages for you. You want to find Sita? First thing you need to do is go and find this guy called Sugriva. Do whatever it takes to become his friend. Now, this fellow is not like a great guy or whatever. He is hiding from his own brother. So, you got to first help him. Then you need to ask his help. Then he will help you. Look at this. First, you have to solve a problem and then that person will help you. The second piece of information he says is it is not that easy to find this Sugriva who is hiding in Rishyamukha Parvata because you can't find there that mountain is there. It's in the middle of nowhere. There are no people to give you landmarks or anything. So what you need to do is you go to this old lady called Shabari who is en route and she will give you finer directions. So he gives directions to Pampa Saras, a lake called Pampa, and then go and meet Shabari. Now, these are two flesh-eating cannibals. What happens is they both were not originally Rakshasas. Because of their bad actions, they ended up with a Rakshasa Sharira, and that Rakshasa Sharira would be gotten rid only by grace of Rama. And then what happened? Because they did that, their Rakshasa form disappeared, and then their original thought process came, and they want to be part of Rama's Kainkariya. They said, like, hey, we want to help you, we want you to. So basically, our deep tamas, unless it comes in contact with that universal supreme self that is beyond these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, unless it gets pulled out. Now this is not a deep seated tamas, this is like a situation born tamas, right? So then those things are very easy to pull out. Now, next character we are going to see is what happens. You have so much of tamas that you cannot pull it out. You have so much amount of tamas, but that tamas is so deep that you cannot extricate yourself even with the contact of. Now this is like not just a habitual tamas. This is like generational tamas. So multiple generations this tamas is going on. It's not like somebody who was cursed to become something. This character is real ironical. His name is Akampana. Akampana means one who doesn't shiver in fright. But this fellow was part of Khara and Dushana's army. He was not just in the army, he was also a spy for Ravana. Ravana had his own spy network also. So what he did was, when there was a fight in Janasthana, Khara and Dushana were just wiped out in no time. So he somehow manages to escape, and he goes to Ravana and tells Ravana, first give me protection. I have something urgently to tell. Because if you come and tell Khara and Dushana were killed with 14,000 people, they were all killed in 1 hour, how come you escaped? That means you didn't fight. That will be the first question. So Ravana would have first cut his head before even asking anything. So Akampana knew this, so he said, why don't you give me protection and then we will talk. So he gives the protection. So Akampana says, I can give you an insight to Rama. He says, give me the identification of these people who killed Khara and Dushana, thunders Ravana. So he says, Putro Dasharatha te Simha Sahanam Yuva. That means he is like a lion. Ramo Nama Mahaskando Vrita Ayat Mahabujaha. His nice broad shoulders, very young chap. But he is son of Dasharatha. The interesting thing is he is like a lion. Why is he saying lion? Many places we say Narashardula, like a tiger among men. Why is he saying Simha? The interesting choice of Simha is to remind Ravana that in his previous Janma, who was Hiranyakashipu, that got terminated by Narasimha Avatara. Here also the same Narasimha is the Nara Rama. And then he goes on to give the descriptions of how powerful he is and how he acts on the field. He wanted to know everything about what happened with that battle. So he says this guy Rama is Ramo Nama Mahatejo Sreshta Sarva Dhanush Matam Divya Astra Guna Sampanna Param Dharma Gato Yudi. The key word here is Param Dharma Gato Yudi. What he is saying is, this guy is very powerful and all those things. But he says, this guy even in the battlefield, he doesn't give up Dharma. Even in the battlefield, he doesn't give up Dharma. That is the first report that Ravana gets about Rama. Before that, he never knew about who is Rama, whatever. And then he also tells him there is one more guy called Lakshmana. Remember that Lakshmana was not there at the scene when Rama was fighting. It was only Rama who fought, right? So Rama single-handedly routed all these 14,000 warriors in just 1 hour and maybe 10-12 minutes, like 1.5 muhurta. So that was that powerful fight that made such an impact on Akampana, who was literally trembling inside. And he tells, hey, you want to go and fight Rama? Ravana says, I want to go and fight him. Let me go and do this right now. He says, like, you have no idea about this guy. This guy is so powerful that you will not be able to even touch him. See, normally if somebody tells that something like a report, people will be offended. A true warrior will be offended. But for Ravana, that is, he is habitually used to that, because many of his victories, especially against the Dik Devatas, in case of Kubera, he left him. In case of Varuna, he rampaged the city when he was not there. In case of Indra, Indra would have killed him, but for Indrajit. And in case of Yama, Yama would have definitely killed our dear friend Ravana. But Brahma said, like, hey, we want Ramayana to happen. If you kill it, then there is no Ramayana. So all these people were playing a part of second fiddle so that Rama Avatara can happen. So this fellow knows that a lot of his victories is hollow. So he tells that this fellow is out of your league. Don't even think of picking a quarrel with him. If Rama gets angry, he will let loose so many arrows, it's almost like a river. And if he is angry, he can burn even the sun and the moon and the stars. This is the field report given by Akampana. So here again we are talking about, and then he gives the idea. He is the first one to plant the idea. You know what? You need to get revenge. Rama has only one weakness. He loves Sita with all his heart. But if you can kidnap Sita and bring here, then Rama is going to be heartbroken. And that way you will get both your revenge and you will also get the most beautiful girl. 2 in 1. Actually, he goes immediately after Akampana's report to Maricha for the first time. Maricha says, nothing doing, you are an idiot, don't even come with such ideas, somebody is messing with your mind, go. So this Akampana is giving, what Akampana is telling about Rama is only his physical prowess, his physical features, and he is only telling that, hey Ravana, you are no match for him, which is a fact, and his understanding is very, very limited. So here Akampana's tamas is at very high level. It's not at the level of Virada or Kabanda, because Virada or Kabanda, the minute they got a taste of Rama's action, they were immediately able to snap out of their tamasic nature. Whereas Akampana is busy plotting for his master how to kidnap Sita. So the sad thing is, today we see a lot of Akampanas all around us. They don't show their gory side, but we don't understand the fact that what role they are playing in the society. And these modern day Akampanas also will be busy. They may be chief minister destroying the temples in a state. They may be a chief minister who is busy looting Tirupati temple, all the funds. So there are so many rupas of modern day accompanas whose tamas is off the charts, and they will not, even if Rama is probably gonna come, the only thing that can happen is probably their elimination, because their tamas is so much that they need a lot of time to wash out that. So you will find a lot of modern day accompanas also. Then we come to the next character, Vali. So today our objective is not to look at Vali, Vada, the dharma behind and things like that. Our objective is only to look at what is Vali's mindset. Vali thinks that Rama is not going to interfere in the battle between the brothers. So he, despite Tara's repeated pleas, he's made up his mind to confront Sugriva. He is aware of the fact that Rama is lurking nearby, but he doesn't take that threat seriously. So when Rama is firing a single arrow at him, Rama deliberately calculates the time, that he still has time left. So he doesn't want to finish off his life. So he uses a arrow that will let Vali talk. And what is Vali saying? He charges Rama with a huge litany of questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Non-stop he asks him so many questions. Rama patiently answers all his questions, point by point by point. And when all this discussion has happened, Vali comes to a conclusion. He says, Na dosham ragave dadyo dharme adigata nischaya. He says, I don't see any fault in you, Rama, because I can tell you with guarantee, with nischayata, dharme adigata. That means you are rooted in dharma. You are always focused on dharma. So I am absolutely certain that you have done. Then he now says, Rama, he is not sorry for all his past actions. He says, Rama, I am so sorry for all what I told you. I asked you all these questions. I didn't understand the dharma. But you are exactly dharma. So this is Vali, whose life was taken away. In today also we controversially say Rama did this. Why couldn't Rama do like that? We give ideas that Rama should be this and that. But Vali, who is on his deathbed, for a few more minutes only is going to live, he is saying that. And then on top of that he says, Tvam hi drishtarth tattvajnanaha tattvajna prajanam cha hite rataha karya karanam siddhau cha prasanna buddhi avyaya. He says, you are the only one who knows all the purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You are the one. Only you can exactly get what that meaning is. And what do? You take your pleasure in the welfare of everyone. Prajanam cha hite rata. So, I am also your praja only indirectly. So, what you have done for me is what is good for me. You not only had the right to kill for my mistakes, but you did the right thing which was good for me, my own cause. Look how it is standing 180 degrees opposite to what we normally believe, that Rama did something wrong. And he says, Rama, you are faultless. Karya karanam siddhav cha prasanna buddhi avyaya. Your buddhi is remarkable. Your insight is perfect. You know how to perfectly evaluate what is right and wrong. Then he again says, Mam api avagatam dharmat vyatikranta purus, um, puraskritam dharma sahitya vacha dharmagnya paripalaya. He says, I was the one who failed. I should have been the one who should have punished others, but I didn't. So here, Vali was also of a noble birth. Vali was also very powerful. Vali was more powerful than Ravana. In fact, when Hanuman goes and says, meets Ravana, first thing he says, do you remember Vali? Oh, he said, which Vali? Oh, that Vali who beat you up. Remember? And that Vali was eliminated by Rama in one arrow. And you remember Arjuna? Oh, what Arjuna are you talking? Kartavirya Arjuna. The one who kicked your rear. He was humbled by Parasurama. Kartavirya Arjuna was killed by Parasurama, but that Parasurama was simply humbled by Rama. So Hanuman is playing a psychological trick on Ravana, but it is not effective because you can only help only those characters who want help, right? So here again, we are talking about Vali. And the interesting thing is, Vali is wanting Rama to give guarantee and that Angada will be treated properly by Sugriva with compassion, not only in a fair way, with compassion. He wants that. And he says that he knows that Rama will ensure. And he also wants to ensure that there is no mistreatment for Tara. Because Sugriva should not look at her and say, like, your husband did all these bad things, so I will take the anger on you, right? So, interestingly, who is the person he is looking up to? Rama. More than his trust in Sugriva, whom he knows that who is a much better follower of Dharma than he was, his understanding, his entire composure is revolving around Rama's presence in Sugriva's life. So, is that the way somebody will do to the person who killed them? The other interesting thing is, we saw that the characters before were covered with different levels of tamas. But if we were to look at Vali, Vali was, you can say, more than tamas, he was filled with rajas. And what happened was that rajas made him deaf to Tara's insights. And also that tamas made him charge Rama with all those list of complaints. But what happens is that one Rama Bana association gave the sattvic thoughts, and immediately he starts comprehending Rama's points clearly. Once he cogently, clearly, calmly understood, he figured out all the faults what he had. They were not from outside, they were all from within. And on top of that, he was able to see Rama's real greatness. So what is the key here? The key here is we need to move our needle from tamas to rajas, from rajas to sattva. So it is our responsibility. So how do you look at Rama? If I have yellow color glasses and say the whole world is yellow, and then somebody else wears a pink color glass and they say the whole world is pink, whose problem is it? It's our own problem. Same way, these gunas color the way we look at Bhagawan. And that is exactly why different people are perceiving different aspects of Bhagavan. You see, the four blind men, classic case, trying to describe an elephant. One holds the tail and says this is like a paintbrush. Another holds the what is it, the legs and says this is a pillar. The next guy is holding on to the ears and says no, this is a moving window. Another guy holds a trunk and says something else. So it's our limitation. It's our limitation that makes us perceive Bhagavan differently in our life. So next we will take a very interesting character, Maricha. We already told that Maricha. So last week when we were talking about why Rama and Krishna's first kill was a woman. So we already were introduced to this character. He is the son of Tataka. So the first time Ravana approaches him after Akampana's report to help him with a scheme to kidnap Sita. He refuses. Then next day morning, Shurpanaka comes back and she starts spinning the story her way, and she said that it was her idea to bring Sita. She didn't say anything about she lusting for Rama and Lakshmana, because that's the idea with which she went. She saw Rama. She said, "Wow, this guy is cool. Let me take him." So we already told the Tamo Guna, the Rakshasa nature is to just take whatever. It's just to covet. It doesn't matter whose it is. So here also Shurpanaka tells lies, telling that she wanted to bring Sita for Ravana, and that's why she had to undergo that humiliation. She puts that guilt on Ravana. So now Ravana wants to take revenge, not only for Karadushana but also for Shurpanaka. So this time he goes to Maricha and he says, Maricha, you better help me. And he starts saying, hey, I know who this guy is. This guy got kicked out from his family. He got robbed out of his kingdom because he was too meek. And he abuses Rama so much. Maricha gives point blank response. You have no idea who you are talking to. You can tell all these stories to somebody else, not to me. I have personal contact with Rama. And he is not normal person. He is Mahendra Varuna Upamama. That means he is similar to Mahendra and Varuna. And when he gets angry, he will destroy not just you, the entire Asura Kula he will destroy. So you don't know what you are touching. And the real ridiculous thing you are saying is Rama left the kingdom. He was not banished. He left on his own volition. And he tells the virtues of Rama. He tells the virtues of Rama. That's interesting. As soon as I said Rama, a person named Rama popped in. That's good. Jai Shri Ram. Now, the interesting thing is, he says that you have no idea about Rama. I will tell you about Rama. Rama's Gunas, he says. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. Sadhu Satya Parakrama. Raja Sarvasya Lokasya Devanam Iva Vasavaha. So he says, this Rama whom you are bad mouthing like a moron, if you take all the dharma in the universe and make a form, that form will look like Rama. And he's not only that, he's sadhu, very, very good guy. Satya Parakrama, he always follows Satya. And on top of that, Raja Sarvasya Lokasya, he's not only Raja for this Loka, only you think he is Raja for only Ayodhya or a prince of Ayodhya. But he is Raja Sarvasya Lokasya Devanam Iva Vasavaha. Just like Indra is not only Indraloka king, but he is also having his suzerainty over this world also. He controls the weather, he does a lot of things, right? So he says Rama is not someone normal like what you are thinking. Then he tells him, like, look, when I was with Vishwamitra Rishi, I wanted to take revenge because Tataka was killed. So I took Subahu and a bunch of my Rakshasa warriors and attacked. This boy was bad. He thinks that Rama was only 12, but Rama was probably a couple of years older than that. He says that I ignored the prowess of this boy, thinking that he is only a 12-year boy or maybe younger. And I thought he was so untrained. He had just probably gotten some astras, so I thought he was not very serious threat. But he dispatched one astra and threw me several yojanas away unconscious. And when everybody else was killed, all the sidekicks, even his brother Subahu, everybody was eliminated. I still wondered why I got left out. Then he took a very a horrible form of an animal, and he started cannibalizing all the rishis in Dandakavana. Because he didn't know Rama was coming to the forest, right? So he thought he will make his life there. And when he was confronted with Rama, along with his two lackeys, Rama sent 3 arrows. 2 of them killed those 2. The other one came very close. For some mysterious reason, it didn't kill me. And ever since that incident, I have been terrified by Rama. Ever since I know that, he says, Api Rama Sahasrani Bitaha Pashyami Ravana Rama Bhutam Idam Sarvam Aranyam Pratibhati Me. See, wherever I see a tree, it appears to me that Rama is standing there with a bow and arrow pointed at me. Sometimes the individual trees look like so many Ramas in the forest. Sometimes all the trees in the forest join together and look like one giant Rama. And not only that, I can't sleep also, because in sleep also this Rama comes. And the best part he says is, not only that, Rakara adini namani Rama tratasya Ravanaha Ratnani cha rata cha eva vitra sama janyanti me. He says, anybody who utters a word that starts with Rakara, like Ratna, Ratri, Rata, something that starts with Ra, immediately I start trembling as if it is Rama. So he says, you don't know the story. Shurpanaka went and messed up the whole issue, and Kara and Dushna were tricked into defending her, and that is why they were all killed. So don't entertain negative thoughts on Rama. He says, definitely he is way more powerful, way too strong, and not only that, because of your association, even I may get killed. I don't want to do this. Then Ravana says, you know what? You want to die in Rama's hands or my hands? You take the choice. So Maricha says, at least I will die in Rama's hands. That is better than dying at this fellow's hands. So he finally succumbs to Ravana's pressure. But here is a wonderful example where a little bit of sattva is mixed with a lot of tamas. How did Maricha get that sattva? We already told that Rama Bana can give us the taste of sattva. But what we should do is, we don't need Rama Bana, what we need is Rama Nama. So we hold on to Rama Nama, it will give us the same sattvic gunas inside us instead of the tamo gunas which we are already having. So what happened was, this fellow, minute he got little bit sattva, he got afraid because he is not used to this sattvic taste. So all his feeling and emotion was centered around fear. And he says, you know what? I need to become a sannyasi. So he runs away and he starts his own ashram and he sits there in fear, thinking about Rama. We also know one more character who did similar thing. Who was that? Kamsa. Kamsa did the same thing. He was afraid of Krishna, but he did all negative things also. So that is what happens if little bit, it's like I have sandal and I mix it with sewer. You won't get the sandal smell, but you will get some weird smell that vaguely reminds you sandal, but at the same time you get the dominant stench of the sewer. So that is what happens when we look at ourselves. But the interesting thing is, even Maricha has hope. If Maricha could get hope from Ramabana, you and I have a lot of hope with Ramanama. That is the message we need to emphasize again and again and again. Okay. Now let's look at a couple more characters. Since we are on a roll, let's look at Vibhishana. Vibhishana, the youngest brother of Ravana, was always rooted in dharma. He tries to tell the Rakshasas, come on guys, you can't just be boasting all the time. Do you even know what is this person, Rama, we talk about? He declares that even if Kumbhakarna, Indrajit, Mahapashva, Mahodara, Nikumba, Kumbha, Atikaya, all these fellows, they can't even hold a candle in front of Rama's prowess in battle. Not only that, even if the devas like Surya, Indra come to protect you, Ravana, if Rama is against you, even if you are hiding in Patal Loka, his arrows will reach you there. So the minute he says that, all these characters like who are all like hollow characters like Prahasta, they say like, what are you talking about? Let Rama come, we will do this, we will do that. So Vibhishana tells him, all this sound is coming only because you have not tasted one thing. You have not tasted the arrows of Rama. He repeatedly tells that this is not a normal human being, and you are only thinking that you have all these past accolades, and you are talking about your legacy, you are talking about all the boastful things, which is not going to help you. Neither Ravana nor Trishisha or Nikumba, who is son of Kumbhakarna by the way, or Indrajit, or any of these ministers are even equal. Forget about equal. You collectively are also not useless. All these people have huge body, huge strength, lot of weapons, lot of these things, but you people don't know his strength. He says the real problem you have, Ravana, is you are a slave of your senses. And because you are slave to your senses, all these problems are there. So all you need to do is get rid of that noose around your neck with 1,000 hoods that is about to kill you. It's called Sita. Release her, send her, let her go. And you are not understanding, despite my repeated wholesome words of Dharma, just give Sita, this problem will not happen again. The interesting thing is, obviously Ravana says like, how dare you tell, I am going to kill you, and Indrajit abuses him, what kind of uncle are you, and everybody mocks. Now the thing for you and me, the lesson for you and me here is, while Ravana is so stubborn to follow adharma, Vibhishana is equally stubborn in following dharma. He is ready to give up his own brother and his race, his clan, and he is surrendering at the lotus feet of Rama. He even left his wife and children. He didn't know what will happen to them. So the thing is that all we can get a feeling of what Vibhishana is perceiving about Rama. He is not thinking about, hey, I am a traitor, I am switching sides. That is all like petty politics. That is the way we normally understand. So it is our confused Gunas that is not letting us see the big picture what Vibhishana saw. Vibhishana declared that Rama alone is the sole refuge for all the beings, not just him. He says, Bhavatam sarva bhutanam sharanyam sharanam gataha. That all living beings are surrendered to this Rama. It's not just him. So if you look at from Vibhishana's point of view, what was his only strength? What was his only thing that was helping him? Being grounded in dharma. So what Sattva-guna does is, the more Sattva-guna quotient is there, it is going to help you remain fixated on dharma, and because you are fixated on dharma, and also you don't have any apeksha, like a deal. See, Sugriva, when he signed up the deal, he was like afraid of his life. So he said, like, anyone who is working on my side, I don't even know whether you will help me or not, but I am ready to add some numbers to my side. That was how he looked at him. But Sugriva undergoes a transformation from that afraid, fearful Sugriva to the Sugriva when he sees Ravana for the first time. He jumps onto him and he starts smashing him because he couldn't control this Mahapapi who kidnapped Sita. Interestingly, Sugriva has not even seen Sita yet. Right? Because all he has seen is Rama. And how Rama was lamenting for Sita, and that was enough for him. So, in case of Sugriva, at least he had apeksha that I will get a kingdom by killing my brother. But in case of Vibhishana, he merely wanted to be on the side of Dharma. And he knew Rama alone had Dharma, and he didn't care about the strength of Rama and all the other things. He wanted to be on the side of Dharma. So Rama, as soon as he surrendered, did Saranagati, Rama gave him the status of his of being a brother, and also the lordship of Lanka. So sattvic thoughts are very important, but action on those sattvic thoughts are even more important, because our gunas are very fleeting. They keep changing. So before we change our mind, if we get any good thoughts, immediately we should act on them. Okay, let's take the last character, Malyavan. He is a maternal grandfather, and he comes there on the day before the war is about to happen. His mother Kaikasi also comes. She also tells few words, but it is mostly Malyavan who does the discussion. And Malyavan gives a lot of factors. He says, hey, you don't understand what is happening, Ravana. You are wanting to show this heroism and all these things. But don't you understand that this guy Rama has crossed the ocean with a huge army and he is arrayed there? So just give a few minutes, listen to me. You have also studied all the Vedas and things like that. So at least give a few seconds. When there is a very powerful king like that, so you cut a deal with him. So don't go and enrage him. Just give back Sita. And not only that, let's have some sort of like a partnership with Rama. That way it will be cool, right? And then he says there are only two types of people. There are Suras and Asuras. So he says, Asruda Bhagawan Pakshau Dava Eva Hi Pitamaha Suranam Asuranam Cha Dharmo Adharmo Tata Ashrayo. See, we have only two categories people. The Devas hold on to Dharma. So Bhagavan also is always on their side. There is also Adharma. Normally we Rakshasas hold on to that. But you need to also understand there is an element of time. He says, Dharmo hi shuyate pakshaha suranam. So Devas always keep trying their best to hold on to Dharma. And what happens? Dharmo vai grasate adharmam tataha Kritam Adbhuta Yugam Adharmo Grasate Dharmam Tatastishya Pravartate. So what happens in the Krita Yuga, Satya Yuga, Dharma swallows Adharma. And in the Kali Yuga, what happens? Adharma swallows Dharma. And you have to remember this happened in Treta Yuga, towards the end of Treta Yuga. So he says even timing is wrong for you. So if you are in Kali Yuga, you would have ruled roost. Like all the politicians today holding on to adharmic ideas, right? So he says don't do all these things, and also understand interesting things about this Rama. Because you were so focused on doing adharma to anyone and everyone, you neglected all the dharmic principles and focused only on sensory enjoyment. Now the rishis have resolved that they need to restore the balance of dharma. So they have pleaded that Mahavishnu, and that is why all these things are happening. And also look at all these bad sakunas that are happening all around. And I will tell you one more thing. Most important thing, you are saying that this fellow is a human being, human being, human being. That's what you keep saying. Vishnum manyamahe Ramam Manusham Deham Astitamaha. You are thinking this is human being. I am saying this is Vishnu in a human form. Otherwise, think how can somebody build a bridge in 5 days across the sea and bring such a huge army across to your doorstep? So Malyavan made a plea that hey, this is Vishnu and you must wake up at least now. But what happened? Ravana, as usual, with our tamoguna, when it is completely blinding the eyes, could not listen to all this wonderful insight. So, see, the Malyavan was not actually the direct maternal grandfather. He was Sumali was the maternal grandfather, whose daughter was Kaikasi. This Malyavan was the brother of Sumali. And we definitely want to understand that wisdom, where these different people are coming from. Let's look at it from this perspective. Let's look at all the characters we looked. We looked at Virada and Kabanda, who fell into this tamoguna because of a wrong doing. That was not their habitual tamoguna which they kept on accruing. This is a fallen state. So when they came in contact with Rama, when they came in contact with the Supreme Self, they were able to come out of it. And the minute they realized their true nature, they were able to shake up all the tamogunas and they were able to come out and see who Rama was and even be helpful to his cause. Then you saw Akampana, who is an habitual, serial, multi-generational tamoguna specialist. And this guy can only see the physical attributes of Rama. He can see the prowess of Rama. But he cannot see the other dimensions of Rama because the tamoguna is clouding. Same thing with Maricha. His contacts with Rama transformed a little bit of Tamoguna into Sattoguna, but unfortunately it got expressed as fear. So, though he got the general picture, man, this Rama is Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. He is the one of the best characters that gives the complete picture of Rama. But still, his vision is clouded and deep rooted in his vasanas. So that is why he goes back to that old habits. We also saw how Vali kind of indicates the Rajoguna. And again, whether it is with Ramabana in his case or whether it is Ramanama in our case, we can have that transformation too. The other thing to keep in mind, Maricha gives the hope for all of us that we can transform. We can move from one level to the other level. Then we come to Vibhishana, who was always rooted in Dharma. He didn't have that problem. He said, I'll just follow Dharma. Because when you follow Dharma, Bhagawan will be there. There's no problem there. And then there is Malyavan, who also was part of the younger day Ravana's coterie, and he was also part of that gang that used to terrorize. But time had given him, at that age has given him the maturity. In some cases it may happen, not everyone, that he was able to see the big picture of Rama. He was able to understand that Rama was none other than Vishnu, because how else anybody can accomplish this feat of crossing the ocean, assembling such a huge army from one side to the other side. Not a small task. So how do we translate this to our life? First message is, if we want to have a better understanding of Rama, we need to increase the percentage of our Sattva-guna. Second thing is, we need to become like Vibhishana, who wants to always be on the side of Dharma. And we need to translate that thought into action. So it is very difficult to, we don't have a meter. We don't have a meter like a thermometer, put it in our head and say like, okay, today Sattva-guna went 10% up, Tamoguna went down 2%, Rajoguna went 5% up. It's not like a stock market. So the gunas are always in a flux, but we also want to see what is trending. And it is very difficult to look at from our own lens, because we will always certify ourselves, hey, I am the best guy, right? So what we do is, all we can do is focus on association, satsanga, bringing sadhana closer to us, bringing Ramanama close to us, and then we can realize Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma, just like Maricha said. So, on that note, that we also can perceive Rama differently based on our gunas, and it is up to us to control that composition. And that composition is a factor of our association, our sadhana, and our actions. Bottom line, guna and karma. With those thoughts, let's think about Sri Rama. Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranamadattullyam Ramanama Varanane Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Jai Shri Ram. Jai Shri Krishna.